Hey guys, how's it going? It is the real Randy Chavez coming at you from this Memorial Day weekend. God bless our troops and the ones that did not come home. I'm thinking about them today. This is a Pokemon sales data video. I have a couple things to go over. We have Brock First Edition PSA 8 Holo sold for $45. Very, very undervalued. The 9 at $100 to $150 undervalued. So this, yeah, definitely. Base Charizard, base set, first edition, PSA 9, thick stamp. I've never, honestly, me personally, the difference between the thick stamp, the gray stamp, and the thin stamp, I can barely tell the difference with. There's some people that are just like, nope, that's thick. They can just tell immediately. And the thick stamp usually carries a premium. This got first edition PSA 9, sold for $12,100. The one that sold for 15 grand like a few weeks ago, I don't know what that sold for. Or I don't know if that was a thick, a gray, or a thin stamp. Some people, depending on what they collect, will pay more, but I think the thick is generally what sells for more. Pidgey First Edition PSA 10 sold for $80. It's actually a 2-year anniversary of when I got my first Pidgey First Edition PSA 10. I think I got it for like $40 or something, so doubled in 2 years, which is nice. Vileplume First Edition PSA 9 from the Jungle set sold for $128. The Hitmonlee from Fossil First Edition PSA 9 sold for $128. Oh, I'm sorry, $172. The Vileplume sold for $128. Hitmonlee is $172. Aerodactyl from the Fossil set as well, First Edition PSA 9 sold for $113. A Yanma. All right, so Yanma from Neo Discovery. This is a card that is extraordinarily hard to grade. There's only 12 PSA 10 copies in the pop report and 132 PSA 9s. So the 9s, a couple of those are probably regraded, more than once. So maybe there's 110 PSA 9s, something like that. People regrade the 9s over and over, try to get that 10, because that 10 is going to be so expensive. Because the first edition PSA 9, like this one, sold for $456. We haven't seen a Yamna sale for a long time. Our first edition PSA 10, so that'll be several thousand, probably 5,000, minimum. And the Yanma at 456 is probably a little undervalued. You might see a couple of more, not flood the market, but you might see a couple more, because if they say like, oh, you were able to get a PSA 9 a couple years ago for $50, you think, can I make almost 10 times my value at my investment? And also, it might bring the price down a little bit. We've seen that with both the Typhlosions, 17 and 18. And I thought we were going to see it with Feraligatr. I'll get back to that in a minute. We had a Dark Dragonite First Edition PSA 9 sell for $316. Dark Gyarados, again, the Rocket set was so overprinted, even for First Edition. There was so many print runs for that, because the Dark Gyarados First Edition PSA 10, 313 copies. Not a crazy ton, a lot. It's not like the Charizard, which has, like over 1,100 PSA 9 copies. This one, 539 PSA 9 copies, 313 PSA 10 copies. And so the 9 sold for $136. Togetic First Edition from Neo Genesis sold, First Edition PSA 9 from Neo Genesis sold for $137. Giovanni's Nidoking First Edition PSA 10. We had a couple of these. 3 of them sell over the last 24 hours. One sold for $415 or best offer. That one sold for $382. That was confirmed. Another one sold at auction for $348. I got that one. Huzzah. I even offered, okay, it was at like $315. I was like, this is, and I had the money, not a lot. I had enough to cover. I was like, all right, if I do like 400, it'll be like 462 with everything. And so I bid 400, and then the total was 348. After everything, it was 382, with taxes and fees and all that. So I got that, because Giovanni's Nidoking First Edition PSA 10 is so undervalued. You get it for under $400. It is insane. And then we had another Giovanni's Nidoking First Edition PSA 10. This one sold for $335. So you saw it was descending. $382, $348, $335. But the one that was on sale for $335, I saw it go on sale. It was at like $400 or best offer, and then it's just on sale for $335. They changed the listing. But it had a cover on it. Like, it was in the PSA case, but the PSA case had a little thin thin cover on it, and there was a bunch of whitening and stuff. I don't think it was on the card. It was probably just not even on the PSA case. It was probably just on that cover. Maybe the surface that they had it on had some specks of something. Or it could have been on the card, and someone missed it. Or it could have been on the case. I don't know. That's why I didn't buy it. But somebody did. And that's a 335s. That's another bright point. So there was a couple. 415 or best offer. Someone bought it. I got the auction one. This one got the 335s. So it was one that was or best offer. There was an auction, and the one that was just listed. All of them sold within 24 hours, under $400. If in like a week or two I see another opportunity, I'll buy it again because it's a great card. And I don't have, like, outside of my collection, that whole completed Gym Challenge collection, I don't have any more, and this is something that I should get. I have a bunch of Blaine's Charizards, Blaine's Arcanine, and I even have a Giovanni's Gyarados and a Rocket Zapdos, but I'm glad to get a double of this, which is great. We have moving on past that, another Vileplume First Edition PSA 9. This sold for $99. I didn't check the difference between the one that sold for $128 and $99. Maybe one was slightly better, so slightly off center, I don't know. Misty, Trainer Card, First Edition PSA 9 Holo from Gym Hero, sold for $140. We had a Rainbow Energy, First Edition PSA 10. This is something, it's from the Rocket set. This has, 78 PSA 10 copies, and for Rocket, that is not a lot of copies because, again, that was printed a lot and had 438 PSA 9 copies. So let's say 38 of those were regraded, to try to get to a 10, and so 438 PSA 9 copies, which is a good amount. But the PSA 10, even at 78 PSA 10 copies, because again, that's not a lot for the Rocket set, so for $1,575. There is, I think, an 8 that is on auction right now, First Edition PSA 8. So this card, I haven't seen a PSA 10 sell in a while. So First Edition PSA 9, get it for $150. I don't even know because there's so many 9s. Now, the reason why I collected a bunch of PSA 8 and 9 Metal Energies from Neo Genesis, because there wasn't a lot of print runs for Neo Genesis. They had a decent amount, but there's just Pokemon, at that time was just getting a little less and less popular, as time went on, and it just doesn't have that many PSA 9 or even 8 copies, so that's why I bought a lot of them. This one in the Rocket set, having a 9 go for even $150, that's a hell of a market cap. 438 to 150, I'm not going to do the math right now. I'm a little drunk. Anyway, $100, $150 for PSA 9, that's probably fair. It's probably something that's good market value. Again, I don't know what it is. That's just what I would pay. Gyarados Gold Star PSA 1 sold for $137. So clearly Gold Stars in any condition are going to sell, regardless of what they are. Regardless, they're PSA authentic, they're PSA 1, they're not even graded, they're just fucked up. PSA 1 sold for $137. It's not even like, all right, I'll give you $20 for it. $137. Dark Alakazam First Edition PSA 10 sold for $405. Went over the Giovanni's. Oh, speaking of Rocket Zapdos, from Gym Challenge set, First Edition PSA 10 sold for $600. That is something that I also think, again, because the Legendary Bird, probably worth $1,000 eventually. Gym Challenge booster packs. I wanted to go over a couple of these because I wanted to see, if you're getting $6,500 for a entire, box, and those being broken down and selling the packs, yeah, there might be some users of packs for a little while, but recently we've had, if a pack weighs light, and for those who don't know, if you weigh a pack, it'll have a certain weight if it doesn't have a holo, and if it does have a holo, it'll be another like gram or two above, and it's not always accurate, but it is pretty accurate. If it weighs heavy, probably has a holo. Weighs light, most likely does not have a holo. So if it weighs light, even a light copy or a light booster pack is going to go for $150. A unweighed, something that you don't know what the weight is, about $200. If it is weighted and it's heavy, minimum $250, probably $300. Because even if you do get a holo, there's no guarantee it's going to be a 10. It could be a 9, it could be an 8. Even if you get the holo. Obviously, if you're going to get a Charizard or an Arcanine, or then you'll make your money back. But some of the other cards aren't there yet. Even Misty's Golduck, which should have the 9 be much, much more than what the at least Arcanine is. It's just not. So it's really not worth it if you get a 9 on anything else aside from those two. The Arcanine and the Charizard. But outside of that, we have I want to do a couple of things with Feraligatr First Edition PSA 5. Or I'm sorry, First Edition number 5, PSA 10 and 9 from Neo Genesis. Number 5 is the one that is not as common. It is harder to grade. It is more rare. You have 18 PSA 10 copies. PSA 10 again is probably worth about $5K. And PSA 9, there's 178 PSA 9. So this is what I mean, the difference between Gym Challenge and Neo Genesis versus Rocket. Rocket, you have so many PSA 10 copies, more than PSA 9 copies of another set, which are normally and 10s are. So 178 PSA 9 copies. It's not a lot compared to, the 539 Dark Gyarados out there, and that's why these are worth more as well. There wasn't as big of a print run. There's just not a lot of them out there. We had on, I'm going to go back in time, not even that long ago, on April 4th, 2020, a First Edition PSA 9 Feraligatr number 5 sold for $128. What the... on, about 11 days later, it's fireworks? Yeah, it makes sense. On April 15th, the Ides of April, sold for $199. So it increased, what is that, $71 in 11 days. And then on, now we get to the really big numbers. 9 days later, on April 24th, $450 or best offer. Who knows what it sold for? Maybe $350, maybe $400, maybe the whole thing. On 5 days later, April 29th, you have $455 or best offer. Again, we're not 100% sure what that sold for. Let's say they sold for $350 and $400. You're still looking at, okay, increase $71, and then if it's $350, increase $151, so it almost doubled. And then let's say this sold for $400, then it's an extra $50 on top of that, and that's just in the course from April 4th to April 29th. It's insane. And then a little bit less than a month later, on May 21st, you had one sell for $500, and then about 25 minutes ago, one sold for $510. And it was on auction. There was a bunch of them, and I see these prices at like $330. Maybe because I see one sold the other day, and there's a bunch listed right now for like $900 or best offer, $700 or best offer. Again, I think this should be a $1,000 card because that PSA 10 is going to be minimum $5,000. But we have a new record price point at $510. So the next one at auction, it might stay at the 500 mark. It might not. Again, there are. It's not like it's scarce right now because there are a good 4 others out there. There are prices that I don't think anyone's going to pay right now because they're well above the going market value. Are they under where I think it should be? Yes. So that's just what I wanted to go over. New record price point for that one. I have 2 already. I have a PSA 8 and 2 PSA 9s, which I love those cards. I'm not gonna never let them go. Now because I have 2, I'll let one go when they reach about $1,000 a card. I'm like, okay, I'll let one, and then hopefully get my hands on a 10. If I get a 10, maybe I'll let one of the 9s go, or I'll let the 8 and one of the 9s go. But either way, that's it for me. I hope everyone had a good weekend. I will talk to you all later. Have a good one. Prepare for our troops. I love you all.